Hi, good afternoon, everyone. We're ushering people in. The webinar has started officially. Welcome, everyone. My name is 𝗲𝗃𝗃, the founder of 𝗕𝗂𝗃 Consulting. Can everyone hear me? We are ushering people in. This is our first webinar of the year, our Stay Trendy series, which started last year, if you remember. So we're still ushering people in. We're expecting a lot of people, so it's taking a lot of time to get in, but we are starting. David Brown is here with us, so we can see him. And I see a lot of people already in, and we are ready to go. Welcome, everyone. Warm welcome to everyone. Great. David, hello, how are you? I hope you're ready for us. Fantastic.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Okay,
yeah, sure, we can, definitely. Yeah, good, great. Yeah. So I'll just do some introductions just so that we start, on time and we don't keep anyone who has been here. I just want to introduce everyone to if you're just coming in now, you are here at the Stay Trendy webinar series by 𝗕𝗂𝗃 Consulting. Every month we pick a topic, a trendy topic in the HR people management field, and we discuss it. We bring in experts, and we talk about it, and we provide solutions, we provide insights that can help us, would I say, stay trendy in our careers. So today we are here on a very interesting topic. Well, very topical. It's something that obviously we've been working in terms of skilling ourselves with for years now, but every time we speak to the audience, our community is still something that people are really interested in, understanding. And it's analytics, people analytics. Today, we're talking about key business questions around people analytics. And we have an expert in-house, no more than David Brown, the managing partner at 𝗲𝗃 Consulting, who's an expert in, I don't even know I can't even mention his areas of expertise, but definitely on this topic, definitely anything around, he's my go-to person for anything around finance, analytics, financial modeling, all those difficult things that everybody else runs away from. He's definitely the person to go. I've learned a lot from him since I've known him, and I believe that we are all going to learn a lot from David in the next 30 minutes. So David, over to you. I'm just here to moderate and ask questions afterwards. So over to you, David. The floor is yours. Thank you.
Super. Can you hear me?
Yep.
That's the trending thing now. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes. So.
And then we basically move on. All right. So let me set up my screen. I want to be sure that you can also hear me directly. Let me play something and see. Okay. All right, so let's see if that works. So let me share my screen. Oh, I can't share my screen.
Oh, right. Okay, you need to be allowed to, or a host, right?
Yeah.
We'll give you those capabilities. Yeah. Thank you. Right. So can you try if you can share your screen now? And yeah.
Yes, good. That works perfect.
Fantastic. Thank you.
All right. So. Okay, good. So you can see my screen, I'm hoping. Let me also try and get to see people. This trend of, so Teams allows you to show people's faces. I don't see people's faces as I'm doing this. So I'm pretending I'm in a class. So everybody, I just pretend I'm in a class with you. So at least you can see my screen, and I want to see this. Let me see. Minimize. Zoom has changed the interface a bit.
Yeah, they do that.
And it's not looking very smart as before. So I can't see everybody, but anyway, I'll pretend I'm seeing.
Okay.
All right. So
can you tweak the slides? Someone is just saying that the graphics on the slides are not clear. Well, I don't know if this is the best it can be.
The graphics are not clear. Can't do much about that.
Yeah, I guess so.
Unfortunately. So anyway, are we allowed, are people allowed to chat?
Yes, please, everyone,
Okay.
feel free to use the
So
question
tell
and
me,
answer.
just say hello. Tell me where you're connecting from. Let me put mine. I am here in good old Lagos. Well, you know, anybody can be anywhere. I want to see who is furthest out. Let me type in the chat. Type in the chat. Just say hello with your name and where you're from. So David, Lagos. That's what I put. So type in the chat. Where are you guys connecting from? Where are you connecting from? This is going to be an interactive presentation, so please let's keep it interactive. So let's type where we connecting from, unless I'm looking at the wrong chat. Nobody has said anything. Okay. All right. So tell me where you're connecting from. I can see Igwe is Lagos, Lagos, Lagos. Fatima is, okay, I can use the chat now. Okay, Fatima just activated it. Thanks, Fatima. Gideon is Moses is in Lagos, Lagos. Where's all Lagos? Port Harcourt. Okay, someone's Port Harcourt, Port Harcourt, Lagos, 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 Lagos. Lagos, you're taking charge. Ogun State.
Lagos.
Uyo, someone's in Uyo, Abuja, Ebonyi, Accra. Thank you, Gideon. Yeah, furthest out. That's good. So something for you, hopefully at the end, huh? Gideon, Ejiro, Ayo. Very nice, very nice, very nice. Okay, great. So I want you to put on your people analytics hat on. It sounds nice. We know people and we know analytics, right? So let's get started. So let me give you a summary of what we're going to say. Okay, this is me. I'm managing partner at 𝗵𝗵 Consulting. I also work as a consultant with the Nigerian Governors Forum. I was also an international consultant on the World Bank. I do quite a lot of things. This is just a quick history. I'm a Microsoft MVP. I also worked at the World Bank. I'm a Microsoft partner as well. And I have many different charters. And I used to work in Anderson. Do you know what happened to Anderson? Who knows? A people thing happened in Anderson. Tell me, one big people thing. Anderson, can you type in the chat? Who knows this? Are we all young people that can't remember, or we're a bit older? Anderson, who knows what happened there? We did some stuff with some analytics. We shredded some analytics, some data. And then we died. So if nobody knows, then we basically became extinct. When was that? 2002, right? And there was some politics involved and stuff. By the end of the day, we all lost our jobs. 80,000 people worldwide, 100,000 people worldwide lost their jobs. But we were lucky Nigeria became KPMG, right? So we kind of learned from the process. When it comes to people, right, there's no organization that can run without people. People are the core of every single organization. So every decision to me is also a people decision, because it's people that make decisions. Even the robots that are coming now, they still need you to make the decision. They can show you prediction, but they will make the decision. So I want you to take out your phone. It's going to be interactive. Gone are the days when it says switch off your phone in a training or a presentation. No, switch on your phone. And I want you to scan this because you're going to answer some questions. So take out your phone, put your camera on your phone like this, and then scan this. Let me even do it too so I can answer questions as well. You either scan this barcode or you go to pollev.com, POLLEV.com, and then you type D Brown is the room, and then you go in. All right. So when you've done that, type yes in the chat that you're done. Okay. You don't need to put your name if you don't want to. You can just skip your name and then go straight in. And you already have one question there. All right. You have one question there already, so you can answer that question. All right. Okay, I'll just give you a few seconds to calibrate yourself. Okay, so let's go in. So this is my presentation. I'm going to be talking about people analytics in general, analyzing the workplace, understanding your data, AI and people analytics, building data teams, and just general summary on people analytics. So let me start off with analytics in the workplace. Now, typically, there's analytics everywhere. There's operations analytics, customer analytics, accounting analytics, and people analytics, right? So all these analytics are happening. I think a lot of us focus, there's accounting analytics, we do our reporting, we do modeling, and we try and predict what's happening in the future. So accounting analytics is pretty well known. Customer analytics, we don't do as much. don't do as much. Operations analytics, yes, we do quite a bit of operations analytics, automating our processes. That's where you see some chat bots answering questions. This is like customer analytics, chat bots answering questions when you go to the website. Yeah, kind of making things easier for your customer and updating stuff. But people analytics, let me go a bit deeper into it. What is people analytics? I like this definition. It says the application of data analytic methods, especially machine learning algorithms, for the purpose of informing people-related decisions inside the organization. So it's an application of data analytics. So we're applying data analytics. Then again, the question is, okay, what's data analytics? What is machine learning? What do you mean by algorithm, right? Yes, we want to help make better people-driven decisions, right? People-related decisions. But what are all these things? What does it mean? So here's data analytics in the summary. What can it do and what can't it do, right? So data analytics can show trends, can be used in decision-making, can be used to make predictions, can be used to assist in planning. That's what it can do. It cannot make decisions for you. You have to make those decisions yourself. It cannot take responsibility. Please, you say, no, the computer said so. The computer said no. I don't know if you've heard that. The computer said no. The computer said no. So you have to take responsibility. And then it cannot use morality to make a decision. It uses data. It uses the data you put in there. And then it can't really show leadership. And one very important thing about data analytics people is what you put in is what you get. And would you agree with me that we as human beings are pretty biased? Just type yes or no in the chat. We're biased. Say no or yes in the chat. Or so, as somebody says, say yes or yes, because technically, if you say no, then you're already biased. We are all biased. We are all biased. So unfortunately, all these our biases, right, has entered into all these analytics that we're doing, all this machine learning. The machine is learning from who? From us people, and is learning our biases, and is doing biased decisions. I don't have a video here, but I want you to go online later. You could check a video about, I think it was Google, yeah, or Google was trying to recruit, or was it Facebook? And they decided that, you know, the AI can recruit for them. So the AI started recruiting and only recruited white men. It didn't recruit a single woman. Why? Because it looked and saw it's white men that usually get jobs. So, I mean, just ignore any CV that has anything female in it. You just ignored it. So it didn't employ a single female, right? Just white men. So, of course, they stopped that. And obviously, the biases came through. So when it comes to people analytics, right, and AI, which are coming to, I think kind of helping to kind of limit those biases or identify those biases in you would really help. That's one key driver. So there are some domains. I want to make things clear around people analytics. There are some domains around people analytics because people, which is HR. I don't really like HR, human resources. We've changed our name to people and culture. Yeah, HR is human resource and whole thing. So people analytics domains, performance evaluation. So if you want to go deep into people analytics, you can choose one of these domains. All of them together is people analytics. So performance evaluation, collaboration, talent management, succession planning, employee engagement, and then the DEI, as you know. So diversity, equity, and inclusion, right? So these are the domains, and all these domains, there are different things, there are different aspects there. There's different data you gather there and see how that affects your day-to-day. When it comes to people analytics, what is valuable is not in what the data tells you, it's what the data is what you don't really know about the correlation or the combination of this, your people data, with some other thing that's happening in your organization. So you could say, okay, based on the fact that if people close at 4 o'clock, it seems that as people close one hour earlier, actual productivity goes up. How do you rate productivity? Maybe the number of sales you're making, you see productivity statistics and you see people going home earlier, maybe working more efficiently. Who knows? So you're correlating data, and your job really is to look at these data points and try and explain what's happening. You don't need to be a data scientist. You don't need to have those technical background. You just need to know how to interpret data. So that takes me to actually data teams. And I'm going to talk about data teams because you are the people, So you need to know, okay, who are the people that need to be the data core of your organization that knows this stuff, right? And that can guide us through. Now, AI is something I'm going to touch on quite a bit in this presentation, but you have to remember that AI will help you make predictions. You must take the decision. Many people think, okay, you can just give AI to make all the decisions. No, you need to make that decision. So it's your responsibility. Yeah, you can't delegate that. Let me play this short video. Tell me if you can hear it.
So I think you just kind of addressed this a little bit, but a couple people are asking about.
Can you hear it? Can you hear it?
We can hear, yes.
Great. So just listen, very short, this is just 2 minutes. Just at least see how they're thinking about using people analytics in the workplace. Let me increase the volume. Okay, go ahead.
Some examples, particularly kind of cool or interesting things that you've seen, particularly around the more predictive space. So you just talked about flight risk, that's obviously.
I'm increasing the volume. I'm not sure if it's going through.
It's fine. We can hear it. The volume is fine as it is.
Other cases that you've seen where, that seems like a really interesting application of HR analytics.
Yeah. So I'll just share two that I'm familiar with more from reading the popular press, and that's Xerox and JetBlue and some of the things that they're doing around predicting, either in the case of Xerox attrition, and in the case of JetBlue, actually trying to predict flight attendant absenteeism or attendance patterns, and it's all through the selection process in both cases, right? So looking for assessments or new ways of thinking about the selection process, collecting data to identify not just what leads someone to perform well, because that's sort of what we've always done, but perform well plus stay, in the case of Xerox in the call center environment, perform well and show up for work in the case of JetBlue, right? And both are extremely costly. In the case of Xerox, it costs quite a bit to continuously replace, and then in the JetBlue environment, flight attendants don't show up for work. You've got all sorts of problems with, shuffling staffing around, and then flight delays, dissatisfied customers, and so on. And so maybe the applications aren't so new in the sense that we've always long thought about how to best predict performance and so forth, but it is a predictive application. It is trying to be thoughtful about something new and different about what kind of employees you might want in those environments, and then using the data to test it and improve upon those practices. So, this would be a couple of examples in the more predictive sense of we have data at time A, and we're trying to understand what's likely to happen at time B.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that's pretty straightforward, right? It's telling us about, let me go back here. So it's testing, okay, how do you basically, when you're employing people, employee engagement, even in the actual employment itself, the data that you're using to assess whether or not this person is going to be someone that will be truant and leave work, and all those things are in the data. So the data you're already collecting on people kind of profile people to a certain way, and then you increase your retention rates by 2%. That could mean millions of dollars for large organizations, right? But I want to jump into understanding data a little bit more. Yeah. What is it with data? Because at the end of the day, if you don't have data, you really can't start any people analytics. You're just wasting your time. And from what I've seen in the last 20 years of working with this, is the biggest issue is the collection process. The beginning of collecting data has a big flaw. There's a big problem there. And one of the best ways to collect data for HR analytics is surveys, right? How many of you do surveys? Anybody else? Yes. Type yes in the chat. You do surveys. Many of us do surveys, right? So surveys, you have to also learn how do you collect data from surveys. What's the good way of collecting data from surveys? But more importantly, the data that comes out of that survey, how am I managing it? Is it automated, or do you have to download? Who here always needs to, after you finish survey, you need to go and download the data? Yes or no? Do you always download? Every day you go and download? Yes or no? Yes, 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 I can see that. Okay, so I'll give you, if I have at the end, I'm going to do one demo first, and if I have time at the end, I will do another demo to show you how to automate the process of doing a survey, and you will never need to download again. Your data will just continue growing, and then you connect to that data and do your analytics. I'll show you that at the end if I have time. But in understanding data, I'm going to give you a hack. This is what we usually use with our clients to explain data in your organization, right? So I say, think about data in two systems, right? Data is made up of two systems, right? First system is operational system. This is where you execute a business process, right? The second system is analytic system. And this is where you evaluate a business process. What do I mean? Executing means that you are actually doing something, you're executing, you've logged on to the platform, maybe it's a HR platform, you put in your name, you're entering stuff, you're working, you're typing things, you're executing something. Or maybe there's an app, you're filling data in an app, or someone has gone to the field, they're taking pictures of stuff and typing, they are executing. Now, the thing about execution is the people that build those software, the main thing you need is speed and accuracy. Speed and accuracy, that's what you need. So think about all the operational systems you have. Just think about what are the operational systems? Where do you execute your business processes? Can you type in the chat, which operational systems do you currently use? Type, it can be people, HR operational system or any, just type in the chat. Let me give you examples, SAP, Oracle, right? Which other ones do you have? Type in the chat, maybe some custom system. Seamless HR, good. Which other one? ERP, Odoo. Yeah, so those are your operational systems. Now, these operational systems have a reporting module. That is not analytics. That is just a reporting module that reports on what is happening in that system. Just says, oh, total number of people that enter, 200 million people. That's just data. It's not analytics. Analytics is where you're taking that data, taking another data from somewhere else, taking data from 5 different sources and bringing it together. That's when you start getting insight, right? So that's what an analytic system does. It evaluates. Evaluation is completely different from execution. So they're not the same. Operational data, you can see examples, but analytic systems, it is, guess who is in charge of operational data is IT. IT, guess the software manages it. Analytic system, who do you think is in charge? Who should build those systems? The answer is actually you. And the problem is we keep on thinking it's IT. It's not IT's job. And that's where the problem starts. IT should give you the data that comes from operational systems, the data, and you build the analytic systems. So any attempt at digital transformation without understanding this will fail, right? So Excel is usually where everybody goes to at the end. Why? Because that's the one you know. And you're getting tired of this software, just get Excel, download this data, and that's very inefficient. And we do it very inefficient. So this is the first thing. And this second thing here, this is how we typically do analytics. People analytics, HR analytics, operations analytics, accounting analytics, this is how we do it. We download the data from these operational systems. We download it into CSV or Excel. That's our starting point. We clean the data. We then do our analysis, summations and stuff in Excel. And then we then populate templates like PowerPoint, and then we do presentations every single month, PowerPoint presentations and stuff. We present to management. Now, all these 5 steps are good, but super inefficient. You should eliminate them. All you should be doing is the 6th step, brainstorming on the numbers, right? So to do people analytics well, you need to focus on step 6. All the other data points you need to automate. And you can do that if you understand data itself, how data comes in. But let us do it another way. Let's use AI. Okay, so I'm going to do a quick demo. Let's use AI and in doing this people analytics. How many of you have used or heard of ChatGPT? Who has used ChatGPT here? Can you answer who has used ChatGPT? So you go back to that phone, you scanned, you go to 𝗲𝗏𝗶.com, right? 𝗲𝗏𝗶.com, and you answer the question there. Who has used ChatGPT? So if you go to 𝗲𝗏𝗶.com, then you'll be able to answer. Not many people are online. So 𝗲𝗏𝗶.com, 𝗲𝗏𝗆𝗆𝗶.com. You will need it to answer many questions at the end. 𝗲𝗏𝗆𝗆𝗶.com/dbrown. Don't answer in the chat. I want you to answer on this. So let me even use this to explain. What you're answering in the chat is unstructured data, right? So I can't do much analysis when you answer in the chat. But when you answer on this app, I can see the analysis directly and you can see it live. So this is clear people analytics I'm doing. I've done a survey. I'm asking you who has used ChatGPT, and I can see my survey results straight away, isn't it? and I can see the number of people that are filling it out. So answer there. I'll leave it on. So of course, most people haven't. So we're going to do a demo on ChatGPT. And before we do the demo, you can be answering this while we're going to do the demo. So in one word, state a HR function you think, not do you think, state this HR function you think AI can help you perform, right? In one word, what do you think HR can help you perform? I mean, AI can help you perform. So what HR function can it help you perform? So this is now people analytics on steroids for you, the HR expert. So management, recruitment, performance, onboarding. Okay, you think AI can help you perform these tasks? Onboarding, good, onboarding. I told you about AI doing it wrongly because of our biases. Performance appraisal and stuff, okay? Right. How many of you create content? So we're gonna do a small demo. While you're answering this, I'm just gonna go to, I'm gonna go to ChatGPT, and hopefully it's still on. I started asking a question. I said, I'm going to do a demo. I was prepping it. Since it's ChatGPT, forget the logo. I don't know why I took my ATD logo for some reason. So let's ask Chat. This is ChatGPT. Let's ask it. This is, you just take ChatGPT, right, as an expert in everything. You have a consultant sitting next to you that can answer everything and anything you have. So I'm going to ask it, what can you do for to augment HR's role, to help HR in something like people analytics, or just say in general? So help HR in general, yeah? All right, so I've asked ChatGPT, if this issue persists, okay, so regenerate. See, that's, but don't worry, I've already asked it some questions before because I know there's too many people on this thing that are trying to log on. So let me ask it again. What can you do to support HR? Let's see, hopefully it works this time. So ChatGPT will answer the question. So its engine is it basically has like the database on nearly everything in the world, right? And then it's now answering. So it says, okay, as an AI language model, I can offer several ways to support HR, related information, assist with recruitment, offer employee support. You can offer, provide training and development, analyze HR data. Okay, so let's test him. He says he can provide HR training and development, right? Okay, let's see. What complex course do you want to create a course outline for? Tell me on the chat, type on the chat. Give me something you're working on, one complex course or stuff that you're working on that you like help on. Type in the chat. The first person to type, we're going to ask this brain that has information on everything to create that course for us. Type in the chat. The first one to type, we're going to put it up. What course? Competency framework. Okay, I want a competency framework. Good. I would like you to build a competency framework for my, what's my organization? My consulting organization. All right, so let's see what it does. So basically it's gone into his engine, and this is the conversation you're having. So when you're working on researching, right, what I advise you do is this. Always have your Google, have your ChatGPT, make sure you have two screens. And as you're working, you actually have this assistant helping you build and answer stuff. Now, don't take his word for it. Take the fact that you have domain knowledge as HR, right? You're doing certain things around people analytics and stuff, but this tool, you should use it to augment what you have. So it will reduce your time to completing tasks. So let's have a look. What's it saying? It's saying, identify the core competencies, define proficiency levels, create behavioral indicators, review and refine, implement the framework, evaluate and update. While it's entering, I'm just saying, give me a practical example. Give me a practical example of a competency framework and how to assess performance. So I don't want story, I want an example. So it will now answer the question and give his example. So it's thinking, sure, here's an example of competency framework for a customer service role. right? Core competency, communication skills, customer service, problem, adaptability, attention to detail, proficiency levels, basic, intermediate, advanced, expert. You know, this is us, right? This is our field, right? So behavioral indicators, basic, able to communicate with customers effectively is giving you stuff. I'm leaving ChatGPT, I'm coming back here, all right? We can come back and see how far it goes. That's the demo. Now, this is unstructured data, right? That is basically conversing with you. So you have an expert. So imagine having that expert for every single employee in your organization. Your productivity will go up significantly. So you can do a base calculation of performance evaluation. That's still people analytics. Performance evaluation of a set of people with ChatGPT assisting them, and a set of people without ChatGPT. And you're basically asking, you have certain metrics to measure those performance. And if you don't know how to build that, guess what? Ask ChatGPT to guide you and then go back to get domain knowledge around it. So that is the new world we're in, the ubiquity of AI, right? Now, when you're building this, you need to understand data teams. You need to know, okay, what are the data teams I need in my organization? Now, if you're a small organization, you can get one person that meets these roles. So I've summarized your data team into 4 roles. 4 core roles, all right? The first role is your data scientist. So let me show you who is a data scientist. These are the things he should know or she should know. Expert in statistics and computer science. The tools that they use are the R, the Python and stuff. They perform a lot of experiments. That's what they do. Experiments with data. This data and this data. Is there correlation? Is there a relationship with the data? What's the relationship? Let's test it. That's what a data scientist does. And the tools are R and Python. So do you have a data scientist? Data engineer. What does the data engineer do? I like to call data engineers the back-end engineers. So you see that operational systems and those other systems, they're the back end. They build the tools based on trying to test what the data scientist has told them. So they're building the data sets, the data model, the semantic layer of those reports. So not the reporting, they're not front end, they're back end, doing all the back end work. That's the data engineer. Next, data analyst. Now, as I said, people analytics uses data analytics, right? So this is a core. This, to me, every HR person must be a data analyst in one way or the other, right? So really leverage people analytics. So you perform reporting analysis tasks, experts in data visualization, and the tools you use, of course, Excel, PowerPoint, Power BI, and the rest. And then you have your manager, right? Who obviously needs a lot of project management skill sets and stuff to plan and execute. So to really drive this in your organization and to drive how this will transform your organization, you need to ask yourself, how many of these roles do you currently have? I'm going to ask you a question around that. So if you haven't scanned this bar already, scan it. Scan it, you're going to answer another question, pollev.com/dbrown, or scan this, or look at your phone for the next question I'm going to submit. All right. So the next question is, which of these roles do you have in your organization? You can answer as many as is. Which of these roles do you have in your organization? I think for me, specifically, I would say only data analysts. We have data engineers as well. Yeah, so you can say we have data engineer and data analyst. Data scientists, no, not particularly, although we do have one, but he's acting as another role. He has the data scientist skill, but he's not acting in it. Data manager, not specifically, but we have managers, but not a data manager. I won't say I have a data manager that manages data. It would be nice. So let's see. Data analysts, quite a lot. I expect that. Data engineers, not as much. So you have to say that's all the person is doing. Data engineer. Data scientist, that's all he's doing, not additional things. And then you have someone that manages the entire data in your organization. That's their job. Managing everything, everywhere data is, they manage. I don't think I have that. That would be a valuable thing to have. All right. So these are the roles, right? When you're doing your people or recruitment and stuff, you need to understand, how do we manage data? What's the way our organization manages data, right? Right. So key takeaways from my short talk, because I know I've kind of gone ahead of time. We need to answer questions. Key takeaways is, be an informed consumer of data analytics, right? You really do need to be an informed consumer. AI-driven doesn't mean AI drives. It's AI-driven, not AI decision-making, no. And be skeptical. Yeah, so I'm skeptical. If I go back to ChatGPT, yeah, I'm going to be skeptical here, right? I'm saying, okay, you said attention to detail. Can you expand on that? I can even tell it to continue. Huh? Just continue, give me more context. So I'm a bit skeptical here. So let it kind of give me more context. So ChatGPT look and say, okay, continue. Okay, let me give you more. So you can see it stopped at 4. Now it's starting, continuing at 5. I'm a bit skeptical, right? Performance feedback and coaching. Yeah, see, it didn't give me everything. So it continues its work. I'm skeptical. Right? Then use algorithms to de-bias your decisions. You know, I said already we're biased beings. So you need to use algorithms to remove the bias from your decisions, right? So that's a big use of people analytics, try and help kind of remove that bias that we already are, and then be ethical. You need to be ethical. So these are the core takeaways when it comes to people analytics. And what questions do you have for me? But before that, for being a good sport, I'm going to give you guys a gift. There are 2 gifts I have for you, but I'll come to that. Now, what questions do you have? And I'll hand back over to Adora.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you so much, David, for that. Brilliant as usual. I just want to urge everyone to use the Q&A for the questions. I know we have the chat enabled. We also have the Q&A. Please use this opportunity to ask all your questions. The other thing is we're also going to share a link because David, obviously this time provided obviously is not enough to download all the wonderful things that can be done with regards to people analytics. So please, while we're waiting for questions to come out, you'd also get a link to your interest. If you're interested in deepening your knowledge on people analytics, you know, just let us know whether it is through a program or whether you would like, you know, you would like some assistance developing your own people analytics dashboard, you know, let us know. So the link to the form will be provided, and then the questions. Yes, so I can see the questions that are coming in through the 𝗕𝗂𝗶𝗵.com. David, you can see that as well. Right. So please, I think for those using the poll, they can use the poll or they can also use the Q&A provided there. So we have a question: how can we use algorithms to de-bias our decisions? And that's the first question. David, would you like to?
Okay, so how can you use algorithms to de-bias your decisions?
Yes.
Well, yeah, so firstly, you need to understand what biases you have, right? What are the key biases? So you need to educate yourself on certain biases. So once you educate yourself on certain biases, then it's a matter, I mean, I could go to ChatGPT, right? And I can dump maybe a message I'm sending out or some evaluation I'm doing or something, and dump it there and then ask to identify the biases in there. So before I send it out, it will actually identify. I could do a demo, but no time. So it could actually identify those biases. So you could program the actual AI to actually identify the biases in certain communication. You can be reading all your text-based communication and then pull out biases it sees. And then you'll be more aware of those biases in you. So it's you need to be told that there's a bias. So is feeding that data into AI and then programming it to actually identify and talk to you about biases. And then over time, try and see if your bias score, whatever that is reducing, right? So that's how I would do that.
That seems pretty fancy. So I think
I don't think.
You know, when you move from analytics to algorithms, like you've crossed.
Yeah, but you don't need to build algorithms yourself.
Yeah.
So let me keep, don't build it. Don't get a data scientist. See, don't have that money. When it comes to algorithms, right, there are 2 ways. There is building yourself, and then there is renting, right?
Yes.
So please rent. Who are the renting agents? Google, Microsoft. All of them already have those algorithms, and all you do is plug into it. If you go to Office, your Outlook right now is already looking through your Outlook. I don't know if you see how Outlook suggests certain things for you. It says, can I create a calendar for you? Can I do that? It's already looking at what you're doing. Those are algorithms working. So rent. ChatGPT is an algorithm. Rent it, plug it in with an API to your system, and it will help. Don't build.
So let's take the next question that seems to be having prioritized. which is about major HR metrics that are important to making a business decision. So the question is, what is the major HR metric that is important to make business decisions? I think maybe a good place to start would be helping people understand, HR metrics in the first place, right? And I'm happy to help here, David. So I'll leave it
you
to
can,
you.
and then I'll look for a slide that actually explains what management is looking for. Go ahead.
Okay, fine, fantastic. So in terms of one of the first things I say about metrics basically is, first of all, understanding what a metric is, and then selecting the right metrics. Now, metrics, they help you. I mean, the easiest way I like to describe them is they're almost like the dashboard that you have on in your car, right? They tell you what's happening, right? So your metrics are like major areas. They're parameters that tell you how well you're performing or not. So first of all, you have to be clear on your performance criteria of your business, and then you select the right metrics. Metrics use data, but a metric is usually, to put a metric together, for something to be a metric, it has to usually be two data parameters that you're measuring. So typical metrics will be like revenue per employee. There could be time to fill a vacancy, but they're looking at two things. So for example, revenue is not a metric, but revenue per employee is. So, but the bottom line is that it measures performance, right? So in terms of your key HR processes, what is the measure of performance that you'll be looking at? But bear in mind that it's not one piece of data. It's usually data for, a metric will be, like, for lack of a better word, I like to use the example of a baby. Like, if I told you a baby was 5 kg or 10 kg, that weight doesn't mean anything until I tell you the age. If I tell you, so when I tell you a newborn baby is 5 kg, you scream, right? Because you need to know it against the age, right? So when you're picking your metrics, you need to be clear what your business performance areas are. And then, because of your business, the areas that your business is performing in or wants to perform in, then you select the right metrics, right? So in your different key areas, what may be important, don't pick a metric just because you hear that other organizations are doing it. Is it key to your strategic objectives? So the whole of HR, there are lots of metrics. There isn't one, when you say what's an important one, of course, revenue per employee is important, but in recruitment, time to fill is important. In talent, in recruitment, maybe the ratio of rejections to your offers is important as well, depending on what your retention might be important for your talents, maybe not for everyone. In a high turnover company, maybe your general attrition rate is not necessarily as important to you as your attrition of your successors or your attrition of your key talent. So important is what's important to your business, not necessarily just picking it because, so metrics have to be, for it to be a metric in the first place, it should have been selected and it should be important to your business in the first place.
Also, if I may add there, you need to show comparison. Any metric that doesn't show comparison is not a metric.
Yes,
and
exactly.
and the way to show comparison is usually as you divide it, so it's divided by something, right?
Yes.
So people analytic metrics to make sense. Most of the people data, if you divide it by financial data, then it makes sense. Revenue per employee, simple one, right? Very simple, but many people don't do it. Revenue per employee, right? Or profit per employee. So you just have those are metrics, and typically when a metric is not tied to what management thinks is important, then it's really a waste of time. Exactly. So let me see. I will try and get a slide that I showed at a different presentation that broke down what management is interested in into just 6. That will really explain it. But another key thing for you is that metrics is really what management really is interested in. That's the most important. What adds value, and if it doesn't really add value, well, it's not a metric. But let me give you one. I was talking with the client, and they had this form. I don't know, when we do evaluation forms, you have so long questions. And I said, all of these things are not too important. What can we use to measure performance? Can you convert all of them to NPSs, right? So what do I mean by NPS? So NPS is Net Promoter Score. And for this performance, for this course, or this, what we're doing right now, what is my net, if I want to identify a metric that shows how good or bad this presentation was, what do we use? You ask all sorts of questions when you can just ask one, which is your net promoter score. Are we all familiar with net promoter score?
You can explain it, even though it's
okay. It's familiar. Okay, let me explain it. And let me demo it if we have the time.
Yeah, we do.
Okay, so let me demo it. So I'm going to do the proper demo now of looking. I'm going to use Teams. I'm going to come from Teams. I'm showing Teams. Okay, I'll use LDNI. Sorry for LDNI. I'm going to use LDNI's Teams.
Yes, fine.
So I'm going to create something, right? I'm going to create. Let me just use medium publicity. I'll use this. I'm going to go to File. If you have Teams, I'm going to create a metric for this particular engagement, and I'm going to start from here. I'm going to start from, okay, I want to insert a file, a new file, come to new. Most of you know this, but many of you don't know this one. This forms for Excel. Don't create a survey by just going straight to the survey tool and creating a survey, or else once you finish, you will need to download it into CSV. If you create a survey the way I'm doing like this, it's going to be an automatic download. So I'm just going to demo MPS, right, with you guys and say create. And so here I want to evaluate performance, right? I want you to evaluate my performance, right, on this. I'm just going to ask one simple question. It's going to be an MPS question. MPS means Net Promoter Score. You want to know, okay, how do I come to create a question? I'm coming to this drop down and I'll see MPS, Net Promoter Score. It's a simple question of 0 to 10. And you're saying, how likely are you to recommend us to a friend or colleague? That's how he says, how likely are you to recommend whatever to whatever, right? And if you choose between 0 and, in fact, let me not tell you, do it, yeah? Do it, and then we'll I'll explain the answer when it comes. Let me not influence you. All right, so I'm going to send this to you, collect responses. I'm going to say collect responses from anyone. I'm going to shorten the URL. I'm going to copy it, and then I'm going to, it's basically ready to go. All right, so that's it. I'm going to now send this to you now on the chat. So everybody click on this link and evaluate, right? And we're going to be seeing the answers as we do that directly. All right, so everybody click on that link and evaluate. I've created a survey like that. I'm using a metric that I'm going to tell you how very powerful that metric is in a minute.
Yeah. So for those still asking, usually the Net Promoter Score is one of the questions in employee engagement surveys, is usually used to determine the Net Promoter Score, which is what David was trying to explain. That particular question measures Net Promoter. So how likely are you to recommend or refer the company? And so they're basically using it as a performance criteria, because obviously for engagement, because if you're likely to recommend your company, then if you're disengaged, for example, you wouldn't likely recommend your company to other people. So it's one of those questions in engagement surveys that management, the results of that question could obviously help management make better decisions. If you find out that most of your employees will not recommend your firm, then I think you have something to be very worried about.
Yes, can you see the screen?
Yes, I see it.
Okay, so you can see that you guys have given me a Net Promoter Score of 27. What does 27 mean? A score is between -100 and +100. Now, if you see promoters basically means someone that has chosen 9 or 10, right? Yes. Passives choose 7 or 8. Yes. And then detractors choose 0 to 6, right? Yes. So if you choose 0 to 6, you're a detractor, and don't worry, I don't mean you guys are a detractor, whoever chose 0 to 6, but how you now calculate it is this. You do a percentage of all of this. So half, 31, 31, 12. What percentage gave you promoter? Let's say 60% gave me promoter, 20% gave me passive score, and 20% gave me detractor. You take the promoter score minus the detractor score, right? And you multiply by 100. So 80% minus 20% is 60%. 60% times 100 is 60. Your score is 60, right? Now, your score could be, if, for example, everybody was a detractor, then what is your promoter score? 0%. Your detractor score, 100%. 0 minus 100% is minus 100. Do you get? So that's how you use this tool. And it is just one point of data that you can use over time and see how have your score improved. And if you're assessing your vendors, you're assessing staff, you're assessing yourselves, this is an excellent, simple tool to use. The number means something, and it's a very simple metric. As you can see, I just did it in seconds. Yeah,
fantastic. So I just saw a question asking whether the NPS always has to be numbers. Yes, it's a metric. So it always has to be, it can't be a yes or no. It's a metric. It's like saying, you know, do you have to measure your speed with yes or no? We have to know how fast you're going. So we need to know the metric to know your score. So yes, right. So let's look at another question, David, around how to, I think this is a simple one. Maybe we'll bunch this up with other questions around how to use analytics to get heard. So I look for another question here is, let's see, I want to just pick a good question that all of us have here. Let me see the question. Sorry, can you, David, those questions?
It disappeared. Sorry.
Yeah.
My
I was looking
system
at the questions. Okay, then let me just pick one from the Q&A if it has gone right. So someone is saying, and this is a typical question that we get, you know, around, they say, okay, they have a background in communications, they're a communications/HR person without a strong background in science or math. I love what I do, but I keep thinking I'm mentally deficient to cope with data analytics. So yes, so David, this one is for not us.
Yeah,
well,
so
not me now, but I've been there. Yeah.
So you have to differentiate the roles, right? So do the hard work, the data entry, Excel, and all the analytics. The most important thing for you is interpretation.
Yeah.
How am I interpreting this data? So it's not going to learn all the statistics and data related things. More, how do I interpret this data, right? How do I, when someone says, if I give you this example, I said the data shows that as you go up in the organization, unfortunately, there are less and less women there, right? The data shows that you have far less women at the top. And then another data shows that the more women you have on boards, the better the organization. So you take that piece of information and try and interpret and say, okay, so what does that mean for my organization, right? So another key thing is understand statistics, a little bit of statistics, right? So understand how to interpret that data. And another thing is visualization. So everything I'm saying is not directly related to the data analytics, the heavy lifting, which you're afraid of. It's more the interpretation. And I gave this example, I think, in the last session we had, Adora, where I said a case study, right? I gave a case study about laying people off, right? And what metric would you use to identify poor performance in the organization? And you unfortunately need to lay off 200 people. And you have, you basically have statistics on their performance. How would you sort that statistics up and say, okay, the top 800 performers, there. The bottom 200, sorry, you have to go. What is that metric you would use to measure performance? So for you as HR, you should know what that metric is. But calculating it and everything, you can leave that for someone else.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, who knows that metric, by the way?
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so I have a couple of questions here I'm seeing around people's careers in people analytics. I'm seeing a question that says they're currently learning data analytics. What role can they fit in HR? I've seen another question, which is around, you know, so there's quite a number of questions around where this fits into HR. And I think you've kind of started answering it with this question here. So can I just say can I just answer that one, David?
Yes, please go ahead.
I think we all stand to benefit from analytics competence. It's a competence for HR professionals. So whether you specialize, even whether you can specialize or you can, of course, generalize. But the bottom line is that we should all be able to interpret and use the information, because superior HR will definitely rely on analytics. Otherwise, you're just relying on feelings, emotions, and the language of the business. You know, the language is like speaking Chinese when someone is speaking French. The language of the business is a lot to do with data, right? It's a lot to do with income, money, finance. And if you can't equate that, if you can't speak that same language, it becomes very difficult. Because I saw another question asking, how can they get a seat at the table using analytics? Yes, because you'll be speaking a similar language. You'd be relying on data rather than gut feeling, rather than emotional decisions. And that would definitely get you heard because data tells the story, right? So, and I think a lot of it also, just answering the other person, is it's our attitude to the data. We don't have to do everything. We work in teams. Some people are more skilled in, in analysis than others. I think the important thing is to appreciate what it can do for you and work with people who can provide that level of detail, and then provide yourself with at least some general level knowledge. You may not be the expert, but it's worth having an introduction. We all did math, and I'm sure this is not really too different. Math is problem solving. So we can just approach it with an open mind that it's going to help us with our work.
And let me add to that. One very important thing is all of you are currently working already. The data is there.
Yes.
The problem I see is in correlating it with money data, finance data. You need financial knowledge. You desperately need knowledge of finance, because to me, that's the ceiling that HR, L&D people have. They get to a certain level, they're on the board, they're in meetings, and they don't contribute because they don't know finance. If you don't know finance, you cannot become CEO. You cannot hit C-suite without finance. It's not possible. So you really need to understand finance, the language of business, and then that way you're able to tie it in. So I'm looking for a slide that's so important for you to understand what it is I'm doing with people. Where does it tie to what management is what's important to management, right? So understand, okay, what are the metrics? I have we're talking about people analytics, metrics for HR. What's the CEO's metric? What's the number one metric the CEO is interested in? How am I helping improve that metric for the CEO with my people data? What are the things I'm doing that directly relates to helping him there? So that when I'm in a meeting and I basically can defend that training that we did on whatever, I can tell you exactly how this thing affects the bottom line. You need to get that knowledge. You need to be able to do that.
Sure. So there's another question on the difference between metrics and analytics, and I think I could just shed some light in it. Analytics begins when you start analyzing the data or the metrics. So the metrics are the performance parameters that you choose. And I think David and I have already explained some of those parameters, whether it's revenue per employee, whether it's costs or time to fill, whether it's, all those. So those are your metrics, right? Analytics begins when you start analyzing the metrics or the data to give you insights to make decisions. So analytics is for decision making. Your metrics, you can know what your metrics are, but when you start analyzing it for patterns, because data shows patterns, that's why we gather the data in the first place. So you might gather the metrics, but you haven't started the analytics. Analytics is for, is for gaining insights, because when you start looking at the data for trends, for patterns, for making sense of it, for storytelling, then analytics begins. But analytics is what you use to gain insights, to make decisions. And remember, I think David mentioned that the decision is at the end of the day, we're not just learning this for the sake of it. We're here because we're going to make decisions that will make us stand out, that will help our businesses thrive, that will help us to be more credible as professionals as well. So all of that. I'm sorry, I've just seen something in the chat as well, just to mention again, there is a form going around, because I see a lot of that. I see some more questions. If you are interested in, gaining from introductory to advanced level, or if you want to build something for your organization, please fill the form. And so David and myself can have a look at it, and we can obviously help people after this session around people analytics. Yeah, thank you. So yes, that's a very good slide, David. I remember that.
Yeah. So I'm just trying to put it to context, because on its own, people analytics on its own wouldn't mean anything if you don't put it in context of what you're doing. Does it help management? And your budget will never get cut when you're able to speak this language. right?
Yes.
So the things that the three core things that executives are keen and interested in, right? Is money related, market related, and exposure related. Money, market, exposure. And what an executive wants to see is there's an up and down here. There's what can drive something up on money, or what can drive something down, what can drive something up in market and down, what can drive exposure. And what do I mean? Executives driving up, what are they driving up and what are they driving down when it relates to money, market, and exposure? And then how are you related to that? So for driving things up for money is revenue and profit. They're interested in driving up revenue, driving up profit. Yeah, top line, bottom line. That's key when it comes to money, right? When it comes to money as well, they're driving down costs. Very straightforward. They're driving down costs. Market, they're driving up market share. What is it that anybody is doing that is driving up market share? And then what is it that anybody is doing to drive down time to market? Time that it takes us to get to market, time to kind of conclude on certain transactions. Exposure, what are we doing that is driving up retention, right? And then what are we doing that is driving down risk? So these are the core metrics for management. Now, whenever you're doing something or you want to bring one initiative, ask yourself, which of these six is it touching? If it's not touching any one of these six, whatever the wonderful thing is, you probably should drop it.
Yeah.
If you can't tell the story or where it touches here, then you probably should drop it. That's really the summary of this, right? Because so when presenting data or to an executive, ask yourself, where does my message fit? Does it directly affect any of these levers? And do I have non-obvious recommendations I can share, right?
Yeah.
And to me, that is the core, right? So take note of this.
I think that's fantastic there, David. And I'll just add to that because I've seen this play out a lot. It's very, and just data can trap us. Just because it can be collected doesn't mean we must collect the data, right? Because it's not all data that makes sense. Well, I mean, let me not say makes sense. It's not all data that adds value or is important. Just because, I mean, I can imagine all the number of things I can count here, just here being in my office, right? It doesn't mean I should take and that's why selecting your metrics is key. Just because it's collectible doesn't mean it's the one that you should be pursuing. Because if it doesn't make sense to management or the decision makers, then, you know, what's the point really collecting it? So looking at these 6 areas really shows, I mean, I could see how we could even evaluate our metrics using these, because we're very clear on what the business, so if it was for your particular business, I mean, these are good because obviously I can see that they cut across, any business will use this. But just to buttress to everyone, if your firm already has a strategic plan and they have their strategic priorities and objectives, because in different companies set their priorities and they can differ. Market share may not be the core interest of a particular firm at that point in time. Maybe they want to retain customers, for example, or whatever it is. Focus on those priorities and select your metrics to align with those priorities. If you choose metrics from there, you're definitely on the right course in the first place, because there's no way the persons or the people who set those priorities will not want to see how people efforts can support the delivery of those objectives. So
let me give an example as well. So under retention, right? So Douglas Uche is saying, how do HR use analytics to get a space on the table? So get your retention data. So you have data on how you recruit. You've recruited this person, you know the onboarding process, you know how long it takes to onboard, you know before productivity actually reaches an acceptable level, maybe that's like 4 or 5 months. How much has been spent in those 4 or 5 months of that person's time, the salary you paid to that person, the manager spending time on that person, all the different people spending time on that person, that's your total cost to productivity. Now, if you don't retain that person and that person leaves, obviously that's the cost of retention, right? So bring all that cost together and say, look, if we don't, okay, want to increase salary by 5%. Increasing salary by 5%, this is the quantum of money. If this number of people leave, all that retention capital, equity you've spent is wasted, right? And do your statistics around that. That's people analytics that ties to what? Ties to money, revenue here. Because many people think this just ties to cost. It doesn't. It affects revenue and profit a lot. So you need to find that tie. You must find that tie to whatever you do to a financial metric. And that is how your analytics really help and give you a seat at the table at all times.
And also, David, I would also mention, because I mean, this is based on the example you just gave, is I hope that after all the business case you made, the people won't still leave anyway after spending 5% more in terms of increasing salaries by 5%. Why am I saying this? Because I've actually seen an example with a client where the HR recommended, they did a business case, obviously, and they increased salaries and retention still, I mean, they still didn't retain staff. And the MD was like, you don't even know what you're saying, because I did what you told me and they're gone. So remember that everything, as HR professionals, we have to be holistic. Everything is not around one thing. Exactly. If you had an engagement issue, right? So you could have used analytics, right, via like an engagement from your engagement surveys or attitude surveys, and you would have gotten information that would tell you that you have deeper issues than salary. So, everything is not throw in money and see or try to retain. Sometimes your data will even tell you that the number of detractors for example, your surveys, if you have when we talk about disengaged, there's different levels of disengagement. There's a level of disengagement that, these people are gone, right? Like you cannot, there's no initiative that is going to help. And the business needs to know that this is the state of our company, and we need to deal with those issues before we start throwing in initiatives. So data is there to help us make better decisions. And I think we need to be proactive with it in the first place. So David, I don't know whether you want to look at the questions and take one more, because we've actually run out of time. We're over time now. And if there's any particular one that you think, and I'll just urge everyone again, because this is like a lunchtime session, please fill the form, right? There's a form, we'll leave it, we'll send it to everyone as well. If you're interested in more, like something more hands-on where you can ask all the questions, or you want something to be built for your organization, please fill the form and we'll take it from there. Right. Do we have a last question we want to take? Okay,
let's see if, system was.
We can check the Q&A as well. Someone said you should tell them where that MS form is. If I remember, it's when you're trying to open a file, right?
When you try and open, or just go to SharePoint. When you're on SharePoint, when you want to create a file on SharePoint, the option is always there.
All right, fantastic. Let's take one. Yeah.
Let's take one last question. It's trying to come up. I have to wait a bit for it to come up. But let's see on the chat if there are questions there.
Oh yeah, chats as well. I didn't see, there's none on the Q&A. And then on the chats, I don't think, not sure. I'm not really following the chats.
Okay, I will see the chat. So balance between HR is a business. Okay, so making use of data by HR depicts that HR is showing relevance as business managers or business partners. With this, have there been a balance between both roles, i.e. HR as a business partner and people management, or has HR focused on promoting capitalist interests by focusing more on data? Okay, so let me summarize it. So HR as a business partner, right? When I think we're trying to differentiate between being a partner and data, and we think that they're in conflict. They're not in conflict, really. The data just informs, that's all. See, data should be one of your staff, right? So I take this ChatGPT as a staff. He's a staff, very smart guy, right? But I won't take his word for it. I will use it to augment my own information. So that's me using data. And as a business partner, you're using their own data to kind of work. So data is everywhere. You just have to leverage it. Being a business partner, and there are many other we call soft side of HR. All that soft side has data as well. It's what Adora said about engagement. Engagement is the soft side, engaging. There's engagement statistics. How well are you really engaging, right? People don't leave because of money. They leave because of their supervisor. They leave because of lack of engagement. They leave because of lack of growth. They leave because of lack of training. All those things are you being a business partner, but there's data. So when you talk to your manager and say, oh, this is causing problems, he says, how do you know? You don't have data to back it up. So come with data. Everything, just have data in your pocket to come with data, right? So I think it's not capitalist or stuff in the nature. You must make profit. If you don't make profit, everything stops. Even in the most communist place, there must be a surplus. They don't call it profit. Surplus, right? It's still profits. You need to have a surplus to kind of maintain. So I think partnership and data is the same. It's really, it comes hand in hand.
Yeah, so I think with that, we'll have to wrap up. And I love what you said. Maybe you can turn down your slide now so that we can
close out. I mean,
no, just don't go like
no, I'll switch off the slide now.
So I love what you said about, like the chat GPT being like one of your staff. And I see it the same way as the data. Like, the data is one of the people that we work with. So if you're lucky, you have a person in your team who does that full time. But even if you're not so lucky, then we can have you have someone who at least has that kind of competence, or maybe you have it. So I think one thing that came out strongly here is that data is your friend, really. It helps you make informed decisions. It helps you stand out. It helps you look good in front of people who may not have seen some of your suggestions as credible. Data doesn't lie, but it can be skewed and biased, just like you said, because you can actually pretend it's telling a story if you're being a bit funny with that. So I think I would definitely say that we've learned a thing or two. That one I know I've definitely learned a lot today. And I could see that, we had a very good attendance here. So David, we'll be waiting for the feedback. And I think everyone else, you still have time to fill that form. So David, do you have any closing for us? Because I know that everyone enjoyed it. Somebody says they're waiting for the gift. Yes.
Yeah,
is there a link?
So I'm trying to get the link from my people. Please share the link. So
we will also share it. I don't know, unless it's not for everyone. No, it's for everyone, right? Because we can share it via the email that we're going to send out as well.
There's a link. I'll share the link in 1 minute.
Yeah. So we would also resend it as well with the email that we will send to everyone on the session.
So the thing is, people always, I don't know, did you like maths growing up? I don't know.
Me personally?
Yes.
I was really terrible at math. Like when I was terrible.
I'll give you the reason why. Your primary school teacher was bad.
Yeah, but I can also tell you another reason.
Okay.
I was slow because I realized I didn't actually get the questions I did wrong, but I never finished. So my constant mark was 49%, but I would get 49 out of all the ones I did. So it took me a while. That's data to realize. That's analyzing the data. Otherwise, I'd have thought I was just condemned, but I found out early that I was just slow in math, and I actually ended up doing quite well.
I think I beg to differ. You're not slow in math. You couldn't learn the way they were teaching you.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Well, yeah, that's a good way of looking at it. Yeah.
The thing is, people just have one track. Growing up, right, I hated the fact that I had to stay primary 1, primary 2, primary 3, primary 4. Okay. Everybody has a different route. Everybody has different.
Yeah, that's a different way. Yeah.
One way. There's so many ways to teach. So that's a big issue. The way they teach us maths and accounting is so bad. It's so bad. There's no application, nothing. That was a thing that those that don't think they don't like maths, check out Khan Academy. So Khan Academy, you check it, the guy always breaks down math so easily that anybody could learn. And he was using that online, and it's now a whole NGO. Everything about anything, you get it for free. So it's the approach. So remove that mental blocker you have that I don't like data, I don't like maths, I don't like it. What is finance? Finance is arithmetic. All it is arithmetic, that's all. And just a few basic things you need to know about data. That's it. It's not real maths per se. You don't need to become a data engineer, a data scientist, not at all. Right?
And it's technique, isn't it, David? It's technique, because there's always a technique to everything. And if you learn the right way, then that really relieves you and that really helps you. And I remember when I was in secondary school, then, a friend of mine really helped me, learn differently. And you're very correct. And I find out like my daughter is having the same issues as well. So obviously I need to find a good teacher
Yeah, just check online. Go to Khan Academy.
Khan
download the
Academy,
app.
right? Yeah.
Khan
I've checked
Academy.
them out. I will.
Download the app. It will teach you stuff. So our method of teaching is so wrong. It's so old school, so
know.
outdated.
I know.
Something else. So I've given you a gift. I give you a free Excel course, everybody.
Thank you.
So you'll be able to at least get to the data thing. Hopefully, get that phobia out of you a little bit. And there's some other free stuff on the link I sent. And yeah, and people analytics. Tell us what you think. What would you like to learn? Right? What are the things you'd like to learn? And let's know. Because you can't learn everything in a short webinar. I mean, some people go to university for 4 years to learn this, right? But the thing is, at least we can give you a structured approach to kind of upskill yourself, right?
Fantastic. Thank you so much. So I think let's release everyone and see you next time at our next series, which will probably be it's usually every month. So one in March, and look out for the emails and keep us on your safe list. And thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you, everybody. Go and employ ChatGPT as a staff.
Thank you.
Free.
Exactly.
Yes.
All right. Take care. Bye-bye.
Take care.
Thank you.